谢。在 rundown 上面呢，现在这场时间是 Frank 留时间，他要讲的主题是火热的矽谷房地产市场何去何从。但是他在2天前突然有一个急事，他跑到上海去了。可是他在2天前在我的电视台拍了一个发射的房地产市场何去何从，在我的电视节目讲了。所以今天非常怀念 Frank 刘的人也不用失望，也不必说我骗人，因为今天晚上津津乐道就可以看到 Frank 刘讲这个主题。但是呢，他还有一个大的 bonus 送给我们，看到这一位洋帅哥，这一位中国帅哥，都是 Frank 刘的 business partner。这一位是 Ron Ricard， 他是跟 Frank 搭配在一起做 investment property 里面的 1031 exchange， 就是什么买低了卖高了以后，中间有一些规则啦。这个是很多现在在房地产很好的时候，投资物业都要这样做的啦。那 Joe 呢，他是去年已经来到过我们节目当中。我们在场的有多少位是去年曾经来到飞龙得意须尽欢的朋友？请举手。还是蛮多的，鼓掌，欢迎你们。那这些朋友一定记得 Joe 哈，所以在前面25分钟由 Ron 来担纲，后面25分钟就由 Joe 来担纲。那么，如果大家在听完 Ron 的这个讲词，希望得到更多的这个1031 exchange 的这些仔细的情况，让他有留不多20张名片，就在门口，大家想要跟他联络的可以去拿。Okay, now let us give Ron Ricard a big round of applause and give him the fantastic 25 minutes. Hi, Ron.
Hello, 谢谢。
不客气。
你好。Unfortunately, that is all the Chinese I know. So I will. So, good afternoon. My name is Ron Ricard. I work for a company called Investment Property Exchange, or IPX 1031. What we do is what is called a qualified intermediary, or accommodator, facilitator. Basically, we help you do 1031 exchanges. Now, I know the investor, you've had many types of investments talk today about oil and gas, about the stock market. Many of you, though, own investment real estate. And my goal today is to help you understand one of the main tools, most important things that you can know, and one of the main reasons to own investment real estate is because when you own investment real estate, you can do what are called 1031 exchanges. And that's what I'm here to help you today. So, what is a 1031 exchange? 1031 basically allows you to sell your real estate, your investment real estate, and reinvest that money into other investment real estate. And by doing that, you get to defer paying taxes on the profit that you've made. So what does that mean? Well, you have a rental house. You have a house that you have been renting for the last 20 years. You want to sell that and buy a fourplex. So you list the property. Frank Lou's a very good realtor too, so you can call him. You call Frank, you list the property. At the close of escrow, the money comes to what's called the intermediary. That's me. So I hold the money. My company holds the money, not just me. You then go find replacement property. You go find that fourplex you want to buy. We put the money into the escrow and the property closes. In the eyes of the IRS, you sold investment real estate and you bought investment real estate. And because you never saw the money, you get to defer paying taxes on the profit that you made. Now, one thing to remember is you are only deferring the taxes. You are not eliminating the taxes. So if you sell that house and buy a fourplex, you sell that fourplex and buy an apartment building, and now you're old, you're tired, you're sick of your real estate, and you sell that apartment building, you have to pay the taxes from the house, the fourplex, and the apartment building. So you are just deferring the taxes. However, the reason you do the exchange is because by deferring the taxes, you basically don't have to pay the government. Would you prefer to pay your taxes today or tomorrow? Hopefully never, but tomorrow. I think 1031 exchange, actually the way I look at it, is you get to borrow money from the government. How many people here would like to borrow money, make no payments, and pay no interest? That's exactly what the 1031 does for you, because you get instead of paying the money to the government, you get to use it however you want. And if you do it right, you get to use that money the rest of your life, and you never have to pay the taxes. Okay, so next. Now, the one question in exchanges that is asked frequently is, what kind of property can I buy? Well, the key main thing is this: 1031 is for investment real estate. Okay, so what is like kind? All real estate is like kind with all other real estate. You can sell a rental house and buy a fourplex, buy an apartment building, buy a farm, buy a condo, buy bare land, buy a shopping center. It does not have to be a house for a house or residential for residential. You can sell commercial and buy residential. You can sell bare land and buy a condo. As long as it is investment real estate, any kind of real estate for any other kind of real estate. Also, anywhere in America. You can sell in California, you can go buy in Hawaii, you can go buy in Florida. Unfortunately, it does have to stay within the United States. So you cannot sell here and go buy in China. Or the other way around. It has to be United States to United States. But anywhere in America, you can do a 1031 exchange, and you are deferring both state and federal taxes. Now, what kind of real estate is not investment real estate? Anybody want to take a guess what's not investment real estate? Well, the first thing is your primary residence, where you live. Where you live is not investment real estate. So, is it possible, though, for your house to be both an investment and a residence at the same time? Yeah. Let's say a duplex. You live at one side, you rent out the other side. Maybe you have a house that you rent rooms from. Maybe you have a home office that you declare on your taxes as being a business property. Then a portion of your property is investment. A portion of your property is primary residence. Now, when you sell your primary residence, when you sell the house that you live in, you get an automatic tax exemption. If you're single, after you've lived in the house for 2 years, after you're single, you get to keep the first $250,000 of gain of profit tax-free. If you're married, the wife gets to keep $500,000 of the gain tax-free. If your profit is more than that, then you pay taxes on the amount above. Again, that's property that's your primary residence. Now, let's say you bought your house many years ago, and today the profit, the gain on that house is more than $500,000. Is there anything else that you can do? Let's say you bought your house many years ago for $300,000, and today it's worth $1.5 million. So, you have $1.2 million of profit in that property. What that means is if you sell it, you're going to have to pay, assuming you're married, you're going to have to pay taxes on $700,000. Nobody wants to pay taxes on $700,000. That's going to be a couple $100,000 in taxes. So what do? Move out. You turn the property into a rental property. Now, here's the good news. After you rent the house for 2 years, is that property now a rental property? Is it investment property? Yes. Is it still considered a primary residence? Yes. Because the rule is when you sell the property, you look back at the last 5 years. If you've lived in that property for 2 years during the last 5, it's still considered a primary residence. So here's the good news. Since you qualify for both, you could take advantage of both tax rules at the same time. You get to keep $500,000 or $250,000 if you're single. Actually, your wife will keep it. And then you could do a 1031 exchange on the rest. So you sell for $1.5 million, you put $500,000 in your pocket, and you do a 1031 exchange for the other $1 million. So if you are sitting on a primary residence on a house that has more than that $500,000 and you don't want to pay the taxes, this is the kind of strategy how you can do the 1031 exchange also. Make sense? Now, again, remember though, what you do with the 1031, you have to buy investment property also. What you sell and what you buy both have to be investment property. Now, second home, that little house that you like to go to on weekends, is that an investment property? No. If it's for your personal use, or let's say it's a house you're letting your mother-in-law live in, that's not investment property. What should you do to your mother-in-law? Charge her rent. Now, if you charge her rent and you're showing the property on your tax return like investment property, now it's a rental property. By the way, I have bad news. You need to charge her market rent. Don't give her a discount. I don't care what your wife says. You cannot give her a discount. You have to give her, you charge her market rent. But if you charge her market rent, now the property is investment real estate. Now, let's say that you have a vacation home, a little place like you have in Hawaii that you like to go to, but when you're not there, you rent it out. That's a vacation rental. That is investment real estate. In today's market, what we're seeing a lot of people do is buy fixer-uppers, flippers, okay? You buy a beat-up old house, you fix it up, or you have somebody else do it, and then you sell that property. Main thing to remember is that that is not considered to be an investment. To the IRS, if you're flipping property, they call that a job. Okay, it's a little bit like going to the store. You buy, when you go buy some soup at the store, that's not an investment, that's inventory. They buy it from Campbell's and they sell it to you at a profit. They buy a chicken, they cut the head off, they wrap it in plastic and they sell it to you. That's a fixer-upper. They bought it, they fix it up and they sell it to you. That's what you're doing with real estate. Investment real estate is real estate that you rent out for at least a year, maybe 2, depending what your accountant says. It's real estate that you run a business from, or if it's bare land, it's considered investment because it's held for appreciation, but that's what investment real estate is. By the way, development, you buy a house, you buy a big piece of land, you build houses on it and you sell it. That's not investment real estate either. A bit like a developer, like KB Homes and those guys, when they build those properties, that's not investment. Again, they're buying it because they know they can sell it for more money. That's called a job to the IRS. It's not taxed as capital gain, it's taxed as ordinary income. Now, so I hopefully I've answered all your questions about what qualifies and doesn't qualify, what kind of land. So let me give you a couple things about what happens when you're doing a 1031 exchange. First off, when you're doing an exchange, I always recommend that if you're going to sell the property, please see your tax person. Please see your tax person to see what kind of a tax liability you're going to have. If you have to sell something and you have to pay nothing to the government, there's no reason to do a 1031 exchange. But if you sell something and your accountant says that you're going to have to pay a lot in taxes, now maybe you'll want to do one. But so I always recommend, is that you talk to your accountant to get a good idea of what your actual tax liability is going to be, how much you're actually going to pay in taxes. Now, when you're listing the property, everything is exactly the same. You just list the property just like any other house, whether you're doing a 1031 or not. There's no difference. The only difference that you need to do is before you close escrow, you have to call someone like me, an intermediary, to be able to act on the behalf to do the 1031 exchange. We have to be involved before the close of escrow. Because if escrow closes and there's no intermediary involved, there's no 1031, you're going to get the money at the close of escrow, you pay taxes. So you have to get the intermediary involved. That's the only thing that you need to know before you sell your property. Now, once you sell your property, there are 2 very important dates to remember. The first one is you only have 45 days to identify what you are going to buy. You have 180 days, almost 6 months, to close escrow. So 45 days to tell us what you're going to buy, 180 days to actually buy it. Both those clocks start the day escrow closes. So the day you actually sell the property, that's when that timeline starts. Now, if any of you are thinking about doing exchanges today, maybe you're thinking, oh, I'd love to go buy some more real estate. There's a problem with real estate today. The market's very hot. Why? Because there are very few properties on the market. Okay, if you talk to realtors, they call it an inventory problem. There's very few houses on the market today. So if you go and sell your property very fast, can you guarantee that you can find a replacement property in 45 days? Maybe not. So what you may want to do when you sell your house, you don't accept a 15-day offer. You want a 2-month escrow, or maybe even a 3-month escrow. You want a nice long escrow because again, that 45-day clock doesn't start until you actually sell. And once it sells, the clock starts, and that's okay. You can be in contract to buy your replacement property before you sell your property. Okay? The only thing that's important is you have to sell your property first. You have to close escrow on the sale of your property before you close escrow on the replacement property. If you want to buy the new property first, that's called a reverse exchange. That's called a nightmare. Very expensive, very messy, and you have to have all the money to go buy that new property. So it's completely different story. But as a rule, we always want to sell first, then buy. But you can be in contract, but you want to close escrow selling first, then buying. By the way, when I say identify, what do I mean? What I mean is you give me a piece of paper that says I'm going to buy 123 Main Street. I'm going to buy 1040 Stevens Creek Avenue, unit number 2. Okay, it is the exact property you're going to buy. You're not saying I'm going to go buy a house in Cupertino. No, that's not good enough. It has to be the exact property you're going to purchase. Now, you are allowed to identify up to 3 properties, and during the 45 days, you can change your mind. But when midnight strikes on day 45, you are locked in. You cannot change your mind after that. I don't care if the seller backs out. I don't care if you find termites. I don't care if a tsunami hits and the house is gone. Okay? The 45 days, very important, and you cannot change your mind after those 45 days, no matter what happens. No extensions, no exceptions, no excuses. So that's why that 45 days is so important. Now, by the way, the 45 days are calendar days. So if day 45 is Sunday, that's when you need to tell us, not Monday, Sunday. That's when your 45 days are up. So their calendar is very important. The other part on the exchange is how much money do I need to reinvest? The answer is very simple. All of it. If I buy something for $200,000 and I sell it for $500,000, I'm not just reinvesting the $300,000 of profit. I'm reinvesting everything. If I sell for $500,000, I need to buy at least $500,000. It doesn't matter how much profit, how much gain you have. It doesn't matter how much you bought the property for. It doesn't matter how much money it cost you to fix it up. Whatever you sell, you want to buy equal or greater to that net sales price. Now I say net because you can subtract the cost of the realtor, the cost of escrow and title, those things. Do not subtract the loan, but you can subtract the actual cost of selling the property. It's called a net sales price. So you want to buy equal or greater to that net sales price. Now, technically, can I sell a property for $500,000 and buy for $450,000? The answer is yes, you can, but you pay tax on the difference. That difference is called boot. I don't know why they call it boot, but it's okay. But boot is what you pay tax on. So if you buy less property, if you buy a lower priced property, you pay tax on that difference. As a rule, we don't like to pay taxes. We don't want any boot. We want to buy equal or greater in value. So you always want to buy up when you're doing an exchange. Now, the other part is all of the equity, all of the cash that comes after you pay off any loan you have, all of that cash has to go into the new property. Any cash left over, you pay tax on. So equal or greater, use all the cash. Normally that means you're also getting a loan of equal or greater also. But the main thing is the overall, it needs to be equal or greater in value, and you want to use all the cash. Again, you are not just reinvesting your profit. That's a very common misunderstanding about 1031 exchanges. All right, I've given you the basic rules on exchanges. There's a couple things to be very careful about though. Number one, you cannot buy replacement property from a family member. The IRS does not like your family, okay? So you cannot buy replacement property from a family member. The other thing to remember is whoever sells has to buy. If Lily is selling, Lily has to buy the replacement property. She can't sell and give me the money to buy the replacement. Okay, whoever sells has to buy. So what that means for you is when you're doing an exchange, it needs to be the same what's called entity, the same LLC, corporation, tax person, whoever it is selling, that same person needs to buy the new property. And where that sometimes becomes confusing is if you own the property with other people, like in a partnership, or you own the property, the real estate with other people. So you do want to be very careful about that. But when whoever's on title to that property, that's who has to buy the replacement property. Now, let me ask just a general question. I want to ask, you can think to yourselves, why do people do a 1031 exchange? To defer taxes. That's the wrong answer, Lily. I shouldn't say that to the boss, but it is wrong. The easiest way to defer taxes is to not sell it, right? If I don't sell it, I sit on my butt and watch television, I don't pay taxes. The reason you do an exchange is because you want to buy something better. What does better mean? Better means whatever it means to you. Better means I'm tired of this house. It's in a bad neighborhood. I've ran out of depreciation. I don't want this house anymore. I want something better. I want a different house. I want a fourplex. I want to build. I want to sell my duplex to buy a fourplex. Sell my fourplex to buy an apartment building. I want to build my portfolio. Maybe I want to do an exchange to go buy something for my daughter to rent from me. Maybe I'm going to retire and I want to go do an exchange to Hawaii because in a few years I want to move to Hawaii. So the reason I bring this up is 1031, when you're an investor, is a tool that you use to get from what you own today to what you want to own in the future. Okay? It does not exist for stocks and bonds. If you own a stock and you want to sell it, you have to pay taxes, even if you're reinvesting that money. But with real estate, it's different. With real estate, we can take that profit because I don't want this anymore and I want to go buy something different. And it's a nice advantage that real estate has that a lot of other investments don't have. So that's why I want you to think about 1031. It's that tool. It's that tool that's going to allow you to sell that property that you don't like anymore to buy something that is better for you in your market today. Because when you bought that property, when you bought that rental, it was a good property then. It may not be the right property for you now. And so that's the tool that it allows you to use. Lily, should I ask for questions or? Okay, are there any questions? I mean, my time is just about up here, so are there any questions about anything we talked about or anything else you want to cover? Large groups rarely ask questions, but I'm surprised. Yes?
Yes, you buy this house for the tax defer, a couple years later can buy, if I move in to live there.
Her question is, can I do a 1031 exchange into a property and then later move into the property? The answer is yes, but you want to be renting the property for at least 2 years, maybe even longer, because you need to buy that property with the intention of it being an investment. And most accountants recommend at least a couple years that you're renting the property. Maybe 2 to 3 years is probably a safer number to use, yes. But eventually you can move into that property, yes. Okay, her question is, I've had a rental for many years, I do an exchange, maybe I have a rental for many years, now I move into the property, and after I live in the property 2 or 3 years, I want to sell it. So, the part of the time it was a rental, then part of the time it was my primary residence, now I want to sell it. How do you calculate the tax? All I can say is it's very complicated. Up until 4 years ago, it was very easy. Up until 4 years ago, it was easy. As long as I live in the property for 2 years, now it's a primary residence. I get to keep my $250,000 or $500,000, no problem. And all I have to pay back to the government is my depreciation. However, now in 2009, Congress changed the rules. And now when you move into a property that was a rental property or was a second home, you have to pay a percentage of the gain in taxes. And that percentage is based on how many years you've rented it versus how many years you've owned it versus how many years you've lived in it. It's a very complicated transaction. Question. Tell you what, if you have that situation though, get my business card on the way out and send me an email. I actually have a one-page that I can explain to you in a one-page PDF that I'll email to you on how to calculate that. But the key here is that it is not as simple as it used to be because the Congress changed a law a couple of years ago about that. Okay? Well, Sheshe, thank you for your time, and my business cards are out on the outside if you want to talk to me more. Unfortunately, I cannot stay until the end, but thank you very much for your time.
much, Ron. Thank you.